Hey everyone, I hope you're all doing really well. Today I'm going to be sharing with you my fourth update for my 30 by 30 project pan. This is a project pan that I decided to kick off in the beginning of 2021 because I was approaching my 30th birthday and I kind of felt like I wanted to do kind of like a big scale project pan without trying to use up products or trying to hit pan on items, but instead just try my hand at a usage-based goal project pan. So I'm trying to get 30 uses out of 30 products from my collection. I did set up a spreadsheet at the beginning of this year with those 30 products, and every single update, no matter what, I roll in 5 items. If you want to kind of hear a bigger kind of description of it, because I'm like already feeling like I'm out of breath just kind of recapping what this project is, but if you want to hear a more in-depth description of it, definitely check out the intro of this project. I also have a spreadsheet that I will link down in the description box so that you can see like the intentions of this project, all of the products that were in the spreadsheet, all of that fun stuff if you want to kind of just delve into this entire concept. But yeah, when I update this or like wrap up this project, the next time I sit down to share with you my progress on all of these products, I'll be 30 years old, which is just mind-boggling and exciting for sure. But yeah, before the rambles take hold as they always do every single freaking time I sit down on camera with you, why don't we just hop on into the progress of all of the products that I'm currently focusing on. I have lots of items here in front of me, so this is gonna be a lengthy one. Grab a tea, grab a snack, sit down and do your makeup or wash your brushes, whatever the heck you want to do. Just hang out and let's talk about my progress on all these products, why don't we? I am happy to say I will be rolling out several items in today's update, but this first item is not one of them, and I can't believe how much I've been slacking on this, considering that it is a product that I really enjoy. And I've also had it in since the introduction of this project, which was back, I think, at the end of January, end of February. I cannot do the math in my head at this moment or the counting back in my head, but regardless, it is this Colourpop Super Shock Shadow in the shade Telepathy. It's a gorgeous green gold shade. It is so pretty, grungy, very unique. It was a collaboration with Kathleen Lights and Colourpop, which is no longer available, but I have seen more of this kind of shade come out more recently in other kind of palettes and other releases, so it's not super unique anymore, but I think when it first came out, it was pretty unique, really, really eye-catching. And as with all the rest of these products, my goal is to use it 30 times. Previous to today's update, I had reached for it 16 times, and I have now reached for an additional 6 times, so that brings me up to 22 uses. 6 times in the past month, or 2 months rather, because I update this project every other month, is not great. 6 uses really is not great. That's 3 uses per month. Not great at all, but I definitely will be able to reach for it that last 8 times before we wrap up this project. Not a problem. I can definitely push through and use it at least 8 more times. So that was thankfully the only product that I have had in since the introduction. This next product I've had in since my first update of this project. This is the Charlotte Tilbury Cheek to Chic Swish and Pop Blusher in the shade Ecstasy, which is a great nude kind of color on my complexion, like a pinky nude. Honestly, throughout the summer, it was very, very fair on me. It wasn't really the kind of product that had like a lot of pigmentation on my skin, and I did like the way that it looked. And previous to today's update, I had reached for it a total of 24 times, so I was super close to reaching my goal by last update. I reached for an additional 8 times since then, bringing me to a total of 32 uses, so I will be rolling this out of the project today. I do enjoy this. I wouldn't say this is like a favorite in terms of formula or color by any means. It's just an okay blush in my opinion. But seeing as I have it, I'm glad that I did reach for it 32 times this year, because honestly, if it hadn't been this project, I likely would not have used it otherwise that many times. I definitely wouldn't have put it into another project pan because I would have wanted to try to like hit pan on a different blush or try to use up other blushes in my collection. So this is just something that could have gone virtually unused if I hadn't rolled into this project. So that was really great, and I'm really happy that I did end up reaching for it so much. I know 30 times in the grand scheme of things is not like huge, but for me, I feel like that's pretty good. And then this next product is a foundation. This is by Smashbox. This is the Studio Skin 15-Hour Wear Hydrating Foundation. I have mine in the shade 2.1. I am wearing this today actually mixed with the Too Faced Hangover Primer for like more of a sheer tinted moisturizer. I barely put any product from this into that mixture just so that I had a little bit of pigment, but I kind of wanted something that was just barely there on the skin. And I love using this as kind of like a mixing sort of product. It seems to mix really well with like any kind of primer I mix it with. I've mixed it with like more of a mattifying kind of primer, the First Aid Beauty one, and then I've mixed it with other more hydrating primers, and I really enjoy it. I'm really happy that I've reached through through this project as well. So previous to today's update, I had reached for it 21 times. I was super close to reaching that goal. I just needed 9 more uses. I did just barely surpass that. I actually reached for an additional 11 times since my last update. And so that brings me to a total of 32 uses on this one as well. Just like the blush, I reached for it 32 times. Same kind of story. I probably wouldn't have reached for it that many times without this usage-based project pan, so that's great. I'm really happy about that. Now this next product is from this palette right here. This is the Makeup Geek and Kathleen Lights, another Kathleen Lights collaboration actually. This is the highlighter palette. They came out with this many years ago, and I like needed to have this palette in my life at that time. I don't know why, I really wanted this palette. And as you can see, it's not like the most loved looking palette considering its age. And I had barely used this shade right here. The one that I've been focusing on in this is called Sunlight, which is this shade right here. It's more of that bronzy kind of highlighter. And previous to today's update, I had only had it in for one additional update. So cumulatively, I've had it in for 4 months at this point, but previous in the initial first 2 months of it being in this project, I had reached for it 22 times, which is great. So 22 uses. It was really easy for me to actually get that much use out of it. And 22 uses in this project previous to today's update was probably more than I have used that shade alone ever having this in my collection. And I have reached for an additional 9 times since my last update. I knew that I was pretty close to reaching my goal, and thankfully I had just surpassed it. So I've actually reached for it 31 times in this project pan, which is great. 31 uses is better than 0, that's for sure. And this shade I actually fell madly in love with using as like a bronzer topper, like with a matte bronzer with this on top. Looks so beautiful, especially when I had more of my summer kind of tan. Really enjoyed it, and actually I do need to roll in 5 products at the end of today's update, and I will be rolling in this product right here. It was one of the last items in my spreadsheet, but I will save talking about that till the end of today's video. And then the next product I have here is also one that I've had in for 2 updates. So previous to today's update, oh, and maybe I should tell you what the product is. This is the ABH Powder Bronzer in the shade Tawny. You can see it is a deep, warm bronzer. This is one of the lighter shades in their range, but it's actually very deep in my opinion. Like a medium tone bronzer, I should say. It's not like for deep complexions, but it's deep for light skin tone in my opinion. I am wearing it today. I did have to kind of like sheer it out, and I wore another kind of glowy product on top of it to kind of sheer it out and meld it into my skin, but it is quite rich. Like look at that color. Anyways, I had only used it 3 times previous to today's update. So in 2 months time, I'd reached for it 3 times. So in these last 2 months, I knew I needed to reach for it a heck of a lot more, and thankfully I reached for it 16 additional times. So that brings me up to 19 uses in this product. All I need to do is use it another 11 times, and I can definitely do that by the end of this project pan. Not a problem, seeing as there are 2 more months remaining. That should not be an issue whatsoever. It's just hard for me to get motivated to use this. I'm not sure what it is. I just don't love this color or this formula. I guess that's why. That's the answer right there. But I don't know what it is particularly about it. I guess it's just that it's very rich and pigmented, and it kind of can be a little bit intimidating, but I can definitely use it 11 more times. My next product is this right here. It is the Natasha Denona Metropolis palette. This is such a stunning palette. I just talked about this in my most recent video, which was my Shop My Stash for fall. It is so stunning. It's so perfect for this time of year. I'm wearing a ton of shades from this palette today. Actually on my eyes, I'm wearing this one right here, this one right here. I am wearing, what else? This one a little bit, and then this right here as well on my eyes. And I have other shadows from other palettes in addition to this. I just went like for a full-on grungy kind of green, warm yellow kind of shade look today. And I had previously in this project only reached for it 6 times, which is shocking because I adore this palette so much, but just trying to find that balance between using all my different eyeshadow palettes and focus shadows. But I thankfully have reached for it an additional 14 times. So I've reached for it a full 20 uses in this project pan. I'm surprised I haven't yet rolled it out of this project, to be honest, because I love this palette. It's super easy to reach for on an everyday basis because there are a lot of nice, just neutral kind of shades in here, but I have definitely been struggling with trying to figure out how to reach for these in addition to other shades that I'm trying to reach for. And so I am happy to see that I'm at 20 uses after 4 months of reaching for this. Better than nothing, that's for sure. But yeah, it has been a little bit difficult, quite a bit of a challenge, but I will for sure be able to reach for this an additional 10 times, especially because this is just so perfect for this time of year. And I'm loving how well loved this looks now. It looks mighty used and abused, and that is just great for me considering how much money I spent on this palette and how much I lusted after this palette. I'm super happy to see it looking this loved even after 20 uses. It definitely is a good thing. I'm really happy about the state of this and the fact that I am reaching for this so consistently. So 10 additional uses will be no problem whatsoever for the next update, or that'll be the finale for the finale. Next up is a product that I've just been seriously slacking on so hard. I'm not gonna lie, like I'm not even gonna try to pretend that I have been doing well with this. This is the Cover FX Shimmer Veil in the shade Celestial. The numbers are gonna tell you. Last update I used it only 4 times, and this update I'm on par with that. I've only reached for an additional 4 times as well. So I'm only at 8 uses on this. I need to use this 22 more freaking times in the next 2 months to have reached that goal. I doubt that I will actually reach that goal. I'm very doubtful that I'll reach for this 22 more times. And yes, I have 2 months, so technically like 60 days almost. I'm not gonna use this a third of that time. Like that's just not gonna happen. I know that for a fact, but I'm gonna try to at least reach 15 uses. So that'll be another 7 uses. I think I can do that. This is just the kind of shade that, although it's super easy to throw on and wear on its own, I just haven't been gravitating towards it. Liquid shadows are just not really my thing anymore. They're a little bit high maintenance, like not high maintenance, but like a little bit more challenging for application. And I don't know, just not really been feeling it. That's really the extent of it. The next product I have here is a lipstick. This is one that I actually rolled in last update. So these next 5 items are all ones that I rolled in my last update. This is the e.l.f. matte lip color or something along those lines in the shade Praline. This is a beautiful, like a slightly deeper brownish red kind of color, and that swatch is not cute, but that's a swatch of it. I am wearing it on my lips today, and I've actually reached for it 12 times since I rolled it into this project. I feel like that's really good. Like I'm super happy with that number. 12 uses is definitely better than I probably would have gotten use out of it at all for 2020, but I am gonna be able to we're not in 2020. I gotta backtrack for a second. 2021, I definitely wouldn't have reached for this 12 times collectively if it wasn't in this project. But knowing that I was able to reach for it 12 times in the more summery months, now that we're going into more fall types of weather and looks, I can definitely use this 18 more times by the finale. And that is really cool. Really encouraging actually to see that I'm already, you know, at 12 uses. Feels pretty good. This is the kind of color I can wear with virtually any kind of fall look, and I really like this as a blush. It's actually really pretty as a cream blush. So yeah, 18 uses, no problem. What if I come back? What if I freaking come back and say like, oh my gosh, I never reached for it again? I'd be so embarrassing, but I will make sure I reach my goal. This next item is a primer. This is the Ulla Hendrickson Banana Bright Face Primer. I rolled this in last update as well, and I have reached for it a total of 16 times since my last update, so I'm about halfway through my goal. I just have 14 additional uses, and so that definitely will be something that I'm able to attain, no problem whatsoever. So I've actually been kind of keeping a bit of a tally on it. Initially, I had put it with a bit of washi tape, but I realized like my makeup is not that precious, it's fine. I can take off the washi tape, but I ended up using about this much product, you know, just under an inch kind of worth of progress. There is a bit of an air bubble in here, so it's possible that I've used more than that or that my markings are maybe a little bit incorrect, but that's pretty cool. Hopefully in the next additional 14 uses, I can bring it down to like something like here, and then that means that I'm pretty close to actually getting this used up, and so I may be able to finish this in early 2022, which would be amazing. I did not really think that I was close to using that up, but I kind of just throw this on as like a thick coat of almost like moisturizer instead of like a very thin kind of primer, as I would be a little bit more gentle with my application for other primers. This, I don't know, I can just like load it up on my face and then do my eye makeup and then go in on top of this primer with like whatever base products I'm wearing. And I just find that it soaks into my skin and makes my skin look super healthy and really just like plump. So I can just be very liberal in the application of this. So yeah, I'm gonna just get even more and more liberal with the application of that as we get into the cooler months. And I've been really enjoying that. I really do like that formula a lot. And the smell of it is really nice too. And then this next product comes from my Charlotte Tilbury Film Star Bronze and Glow little duo. I actually reached for this 13 times this month, or this update. I'm focusing on this shade called Sculpt, which is the like technically bronzer shade in this, but it's kind of like a bronzer kind of shade. And I did end up actually hitting pan on it since I've been working on it in this project pan, which is great because I was super close. And I didn't know if I'd be able to hit pan on it or not, but thankfully I actually did manage to hit pan on it since my last update when I introduced it in this project. So I have 17 additional uses left for this product. Should not be a problem to get those uses out of here for sure. As we go into the cooler months, this color is really nice on my skin. I do find that that makes a really nice kind of bronzer kind of situation for me. I use it to semi-sculpt, semi-bronze my skin, kind of do it as like a 2-in-1. And I really enjoy it for that actually. Unfortunately, when it comes to Charlotte Tilbury products, they're very limited in their ranges, so I've never really enjoyed talking about this product on my channel because when I first brought it into my collection, I admit I wasn't as considerate as I wish that I had been. I never really thought about the fact that this line is just not very inclusive. It's just this one and then one that's technically labeled as like medium to deep, but it truly is just like for medium skin tones. And so I don't know, I've just never really enjoyed talking about this on my channel, but I do have it in my collection. I do like it enough that I want to eventually kind of use it up. So I'm glad that I'm kind of making that headway in this project pan. So 17 more uses left. I'm gonna be able to do it for sure. And that feels good. Feels good to know I'm gonna actually be able to do it. And then this next product is a Super Shock Shadow by Colourpop. This is in the shade Lala, which is a beautiful like coppery, rose gold, warm, metallic, delicious shade. I love this color so much. You can see it right there. I felt like I reached for this a ton over this past update, but I don't know that I was keeping tallies correct or if my memory is just incorrect completely. Apparently I only reached for it 9 times, which I'm shocked by because I have a few warm toned eyeshadows in my pan, those eyeshadows right now, and I did when I first rolled this in, and I felt like I was reaching for this in combination with those so much more than just 9 times. 9 times is not really where I'd like to be at this point. I definitely wish I was closer to that like 15 uses range so that I just kind of had to match that, but I should be able to reach for it another 20, 21 times. Ooh, that seems high. Maybe I'll be able to use it another 21 times in the next 2 months. I cannot guarantee that. I'm not entirely sure. And then this next product is also a Colourpop product. This is the Colourpop BFF liquid liner in the shade Grande, which is like a dark chocolate brown liquid liner. And I really like this color. It's a nice alternative to wearing a black liner. I find that black liner can be very intimidating for me. I do not have the skills to do like a nice, thick, rich black wing on my eyes, nor do I even have like the right eye shape for it, in my opinion. I feel like they just don't suit my eye shape. But regardless, I'm surprised that I actually managed to reach for this 16 times already in this project pan. I'm shocked. I did not wear it as an eyeliner every single time. There were a handful of times that I wore it as a freckle kind of product, which I didn't love it as for freckles, but I tried it out. I just wanted to see how it worked. This color was a little bit too rich for that on my complexion. And this formula is not long wearing enough that I could wear it like underneath of a different base product unless it was a powder. I tried to wear it underneath of a liquid foundation and it just disappeared. It like just blended into the liquid foundation, but I was able to wear it underneath of a setting powder to kind of like tame it down a little bit and to give myself a little bit of coverage, and it was okay like that. Didn't love it, definitely won't be using it again for that purpose. It's just a little bit too dark of a color for that. And then I actually used it through my brows a couple of times and I quite liked it. It was a bold brow kind of look for sure, and it did take a lot more patience, but the overall look I thought was quite nice. I did wear it one time, however, and saw myself on my webcam for work and I was like, my face was just all brow. There was no other features that you could see on camera because my brows were bold, and I was like, never mind, not gonna do that for a work date ever again because it just felt so self-conscious. But yeah, 16 uses. let's just wrap this up. 16 uses, that's pretty freaking good. I'm really happy with that, and I should be able to use an additional 14 times by the finale for sure. So every update, I randomize 5 products to come into this project pan. However, seeing as this is the final update, I don't have to randomize the 5 products. I just have the 5 last items from that spreadsheet left. So I've kind of known in advance what I was gonna be putting into this project pan. However, I will be honest, I was not really thinking about what was coming into this project for these last 2 months. And I already did kind of hint on the fact that I will be using the Makeup Geek Kathleen Lights highlighter palette in this project for another kind of round. So I have this shade right here, which is called Starlight, I believe, the pinky shade, rolling into this project now. 30 uses in the next 2 months shouldn't be an issue with this shade because I was using a very similar kind of tone to this in my Graveyard Project pan in the Wet n Wild highlighter, and I loved using it. So I know I enjoy using this kind of pinky highlighter. Surprisingly, I never really knew that until maybe this time last year, to be honest. Like, well, earlier in last year, 2020, I came to discover I really do enjoy these kind of like pinky highlights. However, it's gonna be difficult for me to get 30 uses out of that because there were 2 highlighters also remaining in that spreadsheet. So the first one is the Mary Luminizer by The Balm, which is a like light champagne-y kind of color. 30 uses on this should not be in a normal situation that difficult, but in tandem with this one here and this one, and the Essence Pure Nude highlighter in the shade Be My Highlight, that's kind of a bit of a challenge. So I have to get 30 uses, 30 uses, 30 uses, and I just rolled my Amrezy highlighter into my Roulette Pan collab. What was I thinking? I wasn't thinking at all. I was not thinking at all. Oh my goodness. So thankfully these all kind of serve a little bit of a different purpose, but 3 out of my 5 roll-ins, guys. 3 out of my 5 roll-ins are highlighters. This one I can kind of wear as like an all-over setting powder kind of thing, which I'm definitely going to use it more so that way than as a targeted highlighter. And then the other 2 I will be using more as targeted highlighters, or I might end up just using them on the eyes. The Makeup Geek one I can kind of wear as like a blush topper, and primarily this one I will wear on the cheekbones, but I may end up wearing this also like as an inner corner highlight. But yeah, I also just rolled the Amrezy highlighter into my Roulette Pan collab. So I may end up not reaching for the Amrezy highlighter until this project wraps up at the end of November. We'll see. I did not even consider that one little bit. And I'm so happy I'm finally rolling this into this project. This is the Flower Beauty Blush Balm in the shade Nectar, which is like a kind of neutral peach kind of shade. It's super, super pretty. And it is definitely a very liquidy formula. I definitely put way too much product down on there. But this is what it looks like. It is gorgeous, and I think it's gonna be really nice for this time of year. I love that it's more of like a neutral kind of peach versus like a pinky kind of peach. And I haven't yet tried it out this way, but I remember recently watching one of Sarah Rose's videos where she was talking about like ways to use your blushes. And it might have been a different shade in this formula, but she was talking about using this as a color corrector for under your eyes. So I think this might actually work really well as a color corrector underneath of my eyes. I do have a lot of blue, purple kind of tones, and especially as the days kind of get shorter and I'm losing my summer color, and I'm getting more and more tired because I'm just, you know, always tired, but it just seems like this time of year I just am much more drained than ever with the lack of sunshine. I'm gonna need some color corrector under my eyes is what I'm getting at. And I can definitely play around with this in that way. So 30 uses, I don't think would be a problem to use this exclusively as a blush, but I am gonna give it a shot in that other way as a color corrector as well. I think that formula might actually be very nice for that kind of application. And then my last roll-in, I'm not gonna lie, is a little bit of a cheat. I initially had in my spreadsheet that I was gonna use this Colourpop Lippy Sticks in the shade Bitchet, which is like a cranberry red kind of shade. And I just decided, you know what, I'm not going to be doing that to myself as much as this would have been really great to get 30 uses out of. If I had rolled into this project a little bit earlier in the year, it probably wouldn't have been a problem, but I know I'm not gonna reach for this 30 times in this last, 2 months of the project. And I'm currently working on a red lip in my Partners in Cream project pan that I set a goal of only 10 uses on, and it seems to be taking me for forever. So it's just a conflict of interest at this point. I really wasn't planning out having this product in this project pan. I just wasn't thinking about it. So I opted to roll in a different Colourpop lipstick. It's my project pan. I set the rules, so I hope that's not disappointing, but I'm just being transparent with you. So I initially was gonna use Bitchet, but now I'm going to be using this one. This is the Velvet Blur in the shade Lucky Strike. This is a really pretty color. It's kind of like a pinky mauve kind of shade. And it is a velvet blur, which is kind of like a soft matte sort of formula. You can see a swatch of it there. And it is definitely like matte in terms of the way that it feels on the lips. It definitely isn't like balmy or glossy, but I'd call it like a soft matte because it doesn't have that drying kind of feeling to it either. It's a very unique formula. It is a beautiful color, like a plummy kind of mauve. And I'm really excited to wear it, even though these are not my typical kind of lip colors. That's why I figured I would roll it into this project so that it could be a bit of a challenge like the red would be, but maybe provide me a little bit of variety between all the lip products that I'm working on in various project pans. So that's how it's playing out. The 5 new roll-ins are definitely gonna be a bit of a challenge, but it shall be fun. Definitely a lot of fun to just play around with my collection a little bit more thoroughly and really get to know how it feels to use a product a significant number of times. Like 30 uses in the grand scheme of things, I think is not like a huge number to reach for a product. And yet for me, it has proven to be very insightful and sometimes challenging for sure. So yeah, that is all of the products that I'm working on. I am rolling out, thankfully, 3 products from this project pan that I hit my goal on. So I'm rolling out the Smashbox foundation. I was able to use a decent amount of product through this project as well. I think I forgot to talk about the markings, but yeah, 32 uses on that, 32 uses on the blush, and then 31 uses on this highlighter, even though I'm rolling in another shade from this palette. So 5 new roll-ins, 3 roll-outs, and hopefully by the finale of this project, which is on the 30th of November, I will be actually able to come back and tell you that I hit my goal of 30 uses on almost all of the products in front of me. That would be super exciting. I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, that is absolutely everything for today's video. Thank you so much for watching and for hanging out with me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye everyone.